Okay, it's Wednesday, May 20th. We're going to finish off with two more man-made disasters and their impacts on the environment. So when we buy a lot of stuff, um, we also create a lot of waste, and there's a lot of chances for pollution and stuff like that. So the two we're going to talk about today are oil spills over here and the trash problem we have in Hawaii. So once again, on page 81, this is a nice summary of different things that human beings have done that affect the environment. And so I'm trying to get you guys to think of what has been affecting your endangered species, but more importantly, how can we fix that? And on page 78, you're going to continue taking just brief notes about each of these disasters and focusing on, does it affect the abiotic part, does it affect the biotic part, what we can do to make it better. So in 2010, there was this horrible accident in the Gulf of Mexico where an oil rig exploded. And an oil rig is a ship that they use to drill for oil out in the middle of the ocean. So we've been taking so much oil from the easy to find places like on land that now we're looking for oil in harder to find places like out in the ocean because the land is way deep underneath the water, and so you would have to have these huge ships with these 7-mile long drills in order to get to the oil at the bottom of the ocean. And something went wrong here. People died in this explosion, and then afterwards all that oil that they were pumping up just kept coming out and going into the ocean and stuff like that. And so this disaster in 2010 affected the water quality, obviously, because now there's oil everywhere. There was air quality that was affected, and there was also effects on the food chain, because when the smaller creatures would get trapped in oil or eat the oil, then the bigger fish would also eat the oil, and then so it would build up and stuff like that. So we have to do much better at preventing these things from happening. And obviously one of the best things to do is maybe use less oil. So the less oil we use, the less likely these accidents can happen. The wildlife is really affected by it. So for example, imagine you're a bird, you're covered with oil, it's going to be really hard to fly, really hard to swim. It's really hard to stay warm and stuff like that. So people would have to come down and wash away the oil and stuff like that. So we can do much better than that. Another man-made disaster, and this is happening every day, is we make way too much trash. So think of everything you buy and how much of that then gets thrown away into the trash. Luckily, we have things like compost where we can, throw away our plant matter and stuff like that. But all that plastic, all the packaging, all that stuff, it has to go somewhere. So a lot of times we dig a hole and fill it up, and those are landfills, stuff like that. So here's a nice reading about the trash problem in Hawaii and how we keep trying to find different places to bury our trash and stuff like that. There is a solution we have is to burn the trash, which helps. I mean, you do generate electricity and stuff like that. But yeah, I think it would probably be much better if we had less trash to begin with, because a lot of the trash, unfortunately, doesn't go to the trash can if you think about it. Think about all the people who litter, throw things on the ground. That stuff ends up in the ocean. So there's a quick video here about the trash problem on the beaches in Hawaii, because the oceans will carry this plastic all over, and it would go onto the beach, and then the wildlife would eat the plastics. So here's a quick video.
It was another beautiful summer Sunday across much of the Aloha State today, but not all was perfect in paradise. Carter Evans on the Big Island shows us why.
Hawaii is home to some of the most beautiful beaches in the world with picture-perfect shorelines. But it's pictures like this no one expects to see.
We're here at Camilo Point, and it is unaffectionately known as Trash Beach.
From car parts to shoes, nothing surprises volunteer cleanup organizer Megan Lamson. This place is like a catchment system for trash.
The whole Hawaiian archipelago sort of acts like a sieve and captures a lot of the floating debris.
Globally, 18 billion pounds of plastic waste end up in the ocean every year. That equates to 5 grocery bags of plastic trash sitting on every foot of coastline around the world.
So what can we do about all this? Well, if we think about the 3 R's, that might be the best way to approach it on an individual level. We should reduce, we should reuse, we should recycle. Reducing should probably be the first thing we should focus on. Can we eat less? Can we buy less? Can we make less? Because by reducing it, we take less from the environment and then we create less waste. Once we have it, is there something we can do to reuse it? So if we reuse it, then we can find another purpose for that object. And let's say we can't reuse it. Well, is it possible to recycle it? That makes it so that we can, instead of digging up new metal, we can use the metal we already have to make stuff. So if we try to follow these 3, we can probably do a lot for the environment. So here's a nice activity where each of these is a thing that we can probably do in our daily lives. So you can try to identify which ones to reduce, reuse, and recycle. There was this video I showed you earlier on this year about a student, a science student, who challenged herself to minimize her waste, and over, 2 or 3 years, this is all the waste that she wasn't able to recycle. And the first thing she really tried to do is to just reducing the number of bags she used, reducing the containers that she has to have and stuff like that. Reusing was very important for her too, so that she can reuse the same thing again and again and not have to buy new things. All right, so that's a challenge for all of us. See you tomorrow.